Today I thought I'd give myself a challenge. We got a ferry ride from Queenscliff to Sorrento, so I thought I'd do a 45-minute drawing challenge just to see if I could get something down. I've chosen a nice little cottage subject from our trip, so let's see how I go. Okay, the challenge begins. Just hoping that the seas aren't too rough today, because that was the one concern. You don't do too many car ferry rides, so we're not sure of the movement, but so far so good. Okay, one of the best tricks I think is to start off fairly conservatively, taking your time. I never sort of draw up a size or a space. I'll always do the drawing and then crop it as to what size I want it, or traditionally that's what I would do. So this was just a little house. We were charging up the car, and we were just going for a little walk while we were charging the car, and right next door where the superchargers were a couple of little bunny rabbits, and that's what grabbed my eye at first. And then when I looked up at the house, I thought, geez, you know what, with the light coming in on the left, the chimney, that lovely rectangle with a triangle on the top shape on the gable end of the little house, that area to the right of where the pencil is, that's just a lovely shape up against where the light's going to come in. Because I'm busy doing sort of online teaching and painting and YouTube work, I actually don't get the chance to draw as much as I would like. So normally every time I pick up the pencil, I actually feel a little rusty, which isn't good, to be brutally honest, as your or my art development goes, because it is a great form of discipline. But I did get the benefit of about 12 years of drawing practice, regular 3 and 4 times a week, even though it may have been just an hour here and an hour. They weren't long sessions, but just that benefit to be able to get a drawing done as often as possible is awesome. So this is kind of me sort of reintroducing the art of drawing back into myself. I didn't think I would actually lose the touch as much as I would, but I'm using a 2B pencil to put those lighter marks in, and this should be the 8B, which I normally don't go that dark, but I think I'd used up all my 6Bs, and I thought it doesn't hurt to try the 8B. The trick is to make sure I use it throughout the drawing, so I'm not just getting little patches, because there is quite a difference between a 2 and 8B in the actual mark that it makes. And I think it's good to get a uniformity, a unification of mark onto the paper. But I can now start to see it really sort of taking shape, and so from now on it's almost about getting some of those darker darks in, and not sort of worrying too much about detail if I can at this stage. And that almost can be the thing, is to use this as a developmental tool, because normally with oil painting or any sort of work that we're doing, we're always wanting to get to the fun parts, the details, the lightest lights and the darkest darks, those sharp edges. But we have to learn to be patient, because there's a time and place for everything. And normally in that last 10, maybe 15% of the painting, drawing, watercolour, pastel, whatever we're doing, that's when we should be looking for those harder edges, that detail, as I mentioned. If anything, this subject probably had just a bit of a boring-ish foreground. It was almost like the owners had got a machine in and dug up the front yard, so I would have loved a bit of a garden there to just to put a few little bushes and shrubs, and so I feel as though I'll definitely do a little oil of this one. I think it's such a simple grouping of shapes, but it reads well. And I think that's probably the other thing that you can learn from these is composition which is so important to our development as an artist, but also, and I think the unmentioned and rarely ever spoken about thing is the paintability of a subject or drawability as to how it translates into a painting. That's kind of the one thing that doesn't really get spoken about. You can do a painting of a subject, but how does it translate those shapes into an artistic format, into an artistic statement? And I think that's where the drawing, because once again, if it doesn't work in a drawing, it'll really struggle when it comes to putting in some colour. Sometimes all the colour in the world cannot solve a shape problem, a composition concern. So the other one good thing with this subject is that it's kind of bordered by a nice dark on the left and a nice dark on the right of the awning, which just helps keep the eye in that central area of the subject where those lights are on that wall, just where I'm working now. But we're starting to run out of time, and I think thankfully I've got most of this drawing in place. And I think one of the best lessons I learnt from one of the teachers I went to for drawing is try and draw the speed that an ant moves. That's almost, for most of the drawing anyway, that will give you a certain tempo, a good tempo to work at and to. But there's boundless benefits from drawing, so I feel a little awful that I haven't had the time to be able to devote to it, but that's life, and we just make the most of every bit of time that we've got. That was a great exercise. I find when I give myself a time limit, it forces me to think editing, what to put in and what to leave out, what is the most necessary elements to create the drawing or painting. And I think the lesson learnt was a bit more in the foreground ultimately, but that's something that I can readdress later if I'm going to do an oil painting. Hope you enjoyed this. All the best. Bye for now.